Right now, we have two different pieces of legislation on Ukraine, one from the House, the other from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, to authorize assistance for Ukraine. And I think all of us hope we can get agreement on a bill that the president can sign, so we don't just have speeches on the floors of both bodies, but no piece of legislation at the end. It is one of the things that seems to be missing from the press releases and op-eds, although I enjoy reading them, is that it's the Appropriations Committee, and actually this subcommittee in particular, that will actually decide what assistance and how much to provide. And of course, that will depend on what evolves in Ukraine over the coming months. None of us can predict that. I'm sure others have questions about Ukraine, but let me start with this. Many foreign policy experts, including your predecessors, Henry Kissinger and Condoleezza Rice, and former Secretary of Defense Bob Gates, have offered opinions of how to respond to Russia's aggression in the Crimea. Each of them recounts history, but then they each draw different conclusions and lessons from that history, and they advocate different responses. It's an indication that there's no unified views out there. How do you respond to former Secretary of Defense Bob Gates, who says he does not believe that Russia will give up Crimea? Is there another way to resolve this that preserves Crimea as part of the Ukraine, but also recognizes Russia's interest there?
Well, Mr. Chairman, the truth is we don't know the answer to that question yet. We can speculate. There are strong indications that could lead you to draw the conclusion Bob Gates did, and there are other other thoughts out there that suggest that something short of a full annexation might also be achievable. Frankly, we won't know the answer to that until I meet with Foreign Minister Lavrov tomorrow in London. I talked to him briefly today. They are meeting in Russia, in Sochi today, with President Putin, their security team. My hope is that they will come aware of the fact that the international community is really strong and united on this issue.
Well, let me ask you about that. Suppose the people of Crimea vote to leave Ukraine. The Russian parliament, which will do whatever President Putin tells it to, votes to annex Crimea. How's the U.S. and Europe, our allies, how do we respond at that point?
Well, I think the response will come well before that, Mr. Chairman. There will be a response of some kind to the referendum itself. And in addition, if there is no sign of any capacity to be able to move forward and resolve this issue, there will be a very serious series of steps on Monday in Europe and here with respect to the options that are available to us. Now, our choice is not to be put in the position of having to do that.
I understand.
Our choice is to have a respect for the sovereignty and independence and integrity of the country of Ukraine. Our hope is to have Russia join in respecting international law. There is no justification, no legality to this referendum that is taking place. It violates international law, violates the UN Charter, violates the Constitution of Ukraine, and I don't think anybody can believe that a hastily put together, rushed referendum taking place under the imprint of 20,000 plus troops and all that has happened without debate, without opportunity, is a genuine referendum.
Well,
but even if it were, I'll just say one thing. I don't think there's much doubt, given the circumstances, what the vote is going to be. Nobody doubts that. So this is not a question mark. The question mark is Russia prepared to find a way to negotiate with Ukraine, with the contact group, with the other countries involved, in order to be able to resolve this in a way that respects their legitimate interests, and they have legitimate interests, but respects them in a way that doesn't violate international law and isn't at the butt of a rifle and of massive military imprint.
Well, the new government of Ukraine has made it very clear they wanted closer ties with Europe. The Russians have basically invaded Crimea, notwithstanding the strange comments of President Putin that these are probably people who bought uniforms in a store, which gave great fodder to the late night comics. But are there other Soviet republics or former Soviet republics that have expressed interest in closer ties with Europe? And we could name several of them.
Well,
Are they in similar danger of invasion by a Russian army?
they fear the ultimate possibility. They are not in danger of that as of today.
Okay.
But yes, there are. I mean, I was talking this morning with foreign ministers from the region, and they're all concerned about this rattling. But again, I think that the hope, Mr. Chairman, is that reason will prevail, but there's no guarantee of that whatsoever. The European community is strongly united. They will meet on Monday. President of the United States has made it clear that he's prepared to move. He's already designated, without designating individuals, he's already issued an executive order creating the construct for personal sanctions. And we have a very clear list of those who would be included in the event that we can't move this process forward.
Well, to add to this, because of the tension it creates with Russia, these very serious differences, and I'm glad you're meeting with the foreign minister. I wish you luck there, but having met with him at different times on other matters, I know that can be a difficult thing. But we're working with Russia, and you helped engineer this, and I applaud you for it, for the removal of chemical weapons from Syria. We've worked with them hoping we can bring this horrible, horrible tragedy to an end in Syria with the continuing humanitarian disaster of refugees, something that is destroying generations to come. We have our negotiations with Iran over its nuclear program, Russia involved with that. Is this going to affect, let me take it one by one, is it going to affect the removal of chemical weapons, the possibility of a diplomatic solution in Syria, and thirdly, the negotiations with Iran over its nuclear?
Well, we hope not, Mr. Chairman, but obviously it has the potential to. It has the capacity to. I've talked about that with Foreign Minister Lavrov. He's aware, we're aware of that being one of the ingredients in this, which we hope would push people towards a more reasonable path. But there is no way to predict it. The key will be to figure out whether or not President Putin is serious about looking for a way under international law to move this process forward. Could I just mention one thing quickly? You mentioned the IMF at the very beginning. I want to thank the committee. I want to thank the Senate for being on track to do what is important here. We must have IMF reform. We must have the quota. And it would be a terrible message to Ukraine for everybody to be, standing up, talking appropriately about what's at stake, but then not to be able to follow through. The IMF is critical. We need that help.
Well, Senator Graham and I joined together to get this through the Senate, and we got it through the Senate with a bipartisan majority. I met with Ms. Lagarde and some House members in Davos. She expressed enormous concern that the House dropped it. I tried to make it very clear. If we did it here in the Senate, we're prepared to do it, and I wish they had, because it created enormous problems for for the United States, as you know, when you were having discussions with him and Secretary of the Treasury and others had. It was a huge, huge blow to the United States, the fact that the other body did not go along with us on this. Senator Graham.